Corporation.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. Minister Mahinda Amarweera has advised the officials to expedite the development projects that are implemented under the Ministry of Agriculture and Plantation. It has been observed that a large number of groups are willing to contest the forthcoming presidential election in the history of Sri Lanka. The Supreme Court of India organizes a training program for the registry officials of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka. According to an annual survey by the Registrar General's Department, Sri Lanka's population has seen its first decline in 12 years. 264 new leprosy patients identified in Sri Lanka so far this year. Foreign news. France's prison van attack, manhunt for escaped prisoner enters second day. Minister Mahinda Amarweera has advised the officials to expedite the development projects that are to be implemented under the Ministry of Agriculture and Plantation, as a Gazette notification relevant to the presidential election is scheduled to be issued in July this year. He made these remarks at the Parliamentary Advisory Committee held at the parliamentary premises yesterday. All officials of the ministry and several parliamentarians were present at the discussion. Cabinet approval has been received to implement the Entrepreneurs Village program in 25 districts. The minister also said that 160 villages have been selected for this program and has allocated 1,600 million rupees. 10 million rupees has been allocated for each village under the first stage of this program. Parliamentarian S.P. Disanayake says that a large number of groups are willing to contest the forthcoming presidential election in the history of Sri Lanka. Participating in the Dasade Sinhala program, he said that it is a favourable situation. He also stated that China, Vietnam and India have developed their countries economically in a successful manner. From the year 2009 to 2015 was the era which had the fastest development in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has become the first in South Asia in the Development Index. A delegation consisting of 15 officials of the Sri Lanka Supreme Court successfully completed a 4-day training program from the 9th of May to the 13th of May at the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka. During the program, the delegates were introduced to the technological and digital transformation of the Supreme Court of India, including e-courts project, library, court processors such as filing, listing, scrutiny, scanning and record keeping. The senior registrars from the registry explained to the delegates nuances of the same and demonstrated the systems with enhanced transparency, efficiency and accessibility. This initiative is a testament to the strong bilateral relationship and mutual commitment to judicial excellence and technological innovation between India and Sri Lanka. Under the guidance of the Chief Justice of India Training Cell of the Supreme Court supported this initiative, promoting knowledge sharing and fostering collaboration with international judicial entities. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. It has been observed that there is a misinterpretation of the National Savings Bank amongst the public on a news item currently circulating pertaining to Sri Lanka Savings Bank or SLSB. We wish to clarify that SLSB is a fully owned subsidiary of the NSB and that the recent developments involve the proposed merger of SLSB with the NSB pursuant to a regulatory directive by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Further, the information in circulating regarding a voluntary retirement scheme or VRS and the termination of operations are solely related to the SLSB and not applicable to the NSB. We wish to emphasize that this decision does not have any impact on the stability of the NSB. We expect that this clarification addresses any confusion that wish to assure the continued strength and integrity of the National Savings Bank. According to an annual survey by the Registrar General's Department, Sri Lanka's population has seen its first decline in 12 years. Professor Vasanta Tukorala, who participated in a survey from the Department of Economics and Statistics of the University of Peradeniya, revealed that Sri Lanka's population dropped by 144,000 in 2023 compared to 2022. That is a 0.6% decrease. The survey data suggests a combination of factors contributing to this decline. These include an increase in the death rate, a decrease in the birth rate, and a rise in emigration. Compared to the previous year, the number of births in 2023 fell by 27,421. The number of deaths has gone up by 8%. The report also indicates a decrease of 19,704 marriages. And that ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
In the main news story, a total of 264 new leprosy patients have been identified from across the island during the period from the beginning of this year, according to the Anti-Leprosy Campaign, or ALC. The director of the ALC, Dr. Nirupa Pallewatha, stated that out of the new patients identified, 24 are children below the age of 15 years. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
In Watchlight this afternoon, in the wake of the rising influenza cases at an unusual rate, health experts are urging the public to be aware of symptoms of such as fever, cough, sore throat, runny or stuffy nose, muscle or body aches, headaches and fatigue. Speaking to the media, Dr. Deepal Pereira, a pediatrician at the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital in Colombo, said, "It's vastly prevalent among the children, and thus the parents are advised to keep a close watch on their children," and that was Watchlight. On to world news, the headlines first. France prison van attack, manhunt for escaped prisoner enters second day. End of Lee era for Singapore as Prime Minister steps down. The US says Boeing may face criminal prosecution. Hundreds of police officers have been deployed in Normandy in the search for Mohammed Amra, who escaped a police van transporting him to jail today. Known as the Fly, Amra was being transported back from a court hearing in Rouen when a car rammed the prison van at a toll booth. Armed men then opened fire on the vehicle, killing 2 prison officers. All means are being used to find these criminals. French Interior Minister said some 200 were mobilized today and vehicle checks in key locations are being carried out. President Emmanuel Macron said everything is being done to find the perpetrators. Singapore's long-serving Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong is stepping down, marking the end of a political era for the island nation. After 20 years in power, Mr. Lee will formally hand over the reins to Deputy PM and Finance Minister Lawrence Wong tonight. Since becoming an independent nation in 1965, Singapore has only had 3 Prime Ministers, all from the ruling People's Action Party, or PAP. The first was Mr. Lee's father, Lee Kuan Yew, who is widely considered as the founder of modern Singapore and led the country for 25 years. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, says it's considering whether to prosecute Boeing over 2 deadly crashes over its 737 MAX aircraft. The aviation giant breached the terms of an agreement made in 2021 that shielded the firm from criminal charges linked to the incidents, the DOJ said. Boeing has denied that it violated the agreement. The crashes, one in Indonesia in 2018 and another in Ethiopia in 2019, killed a total of 346 people. The plane maker failed to design, implement and enforce a compliance and ethics program to prevent and detect violations of the U.S. fraud laws throughout its operations, the DOJ said. And back to the headlines of the world news. France prison van attack, manhunt for escaped prisoner enters second day. End of Lee era for Singapore as Prime Minister steps down. The US says Boeing may face criminal prosecution, and that ends world news.
Development news.
In development news, Transport Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that 500 new Sisu Saria bus services will be launched from the next school term to operate on all roads in the country. Accordingly, the number of buses will be increased up to 2,000. The minister has instructed the officials to make arrangements to deploy private buses as well for this purpose. And that was development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Sri Lanka opener Chamari Atapattu and England bowlers Sarah Glenn and Lauren Bell have made notable progress in the ICC Women's T20I player rankings after some fine performances over the past week. Atapattu's match-winning knock of 102 against Scotland in the final of the ICC Women's T20 Cricket World Cup qualifier has helped the captain move up 2 places to 7th position among batters, just one of her career best 6th position attained in April this year. And that was sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හිත හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, a prominent delegation of 30 members of the China National Garment Association, or CNGA, visited Sri Lanka recently to explore fresh avenues of collaboration and investment in the Sri Lankan apparel industry. The CNGA is a leading industry association with over 1,400 major members and covers most of the original apparel brands in China. The primary objective of this high-level delegation was to bolster existing trade relations and explore fresh avenues of collaboration and invest in the Sri Lankan apparel industry. And that was business news.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හිත හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. The Orient Development Company Limited has signed an agreement with the BOI in order to further develop its information technology park with a new environment network. The agreement has reached $1.78 million. And that was economic news.
Weather report.
On to the weather report. Due to the low-level atmospheric disturbances in the vicinity of Sri Lanka, showery condition is expected to continue further. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in most provinces of the island after 1 p.m. Heavy showers, about 100 millimeters, are likely at some places in the western, central, Sabaragamu and Ua provinces. Showers may occur in the western and southern coastal areas during the morning too. That was the weather report. And prior to concluding this news broadcast, the headlines once again. Minister Mahinda Amarweera has advised the officials to expedite the development projects that are to be implemented under the Ministry of Agriculture and Plantation. It has been observed that a large number of groups are willing to contest the forthcoming presidential election in the history of Sri Lanka. The Supreme Court of India organizes a training program for the registry officials of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka. According to an annual survey by the Registrar General's Department, Sri Lanka's population has seen its first decline in 12 years. 264 new leprosy patients identified in Sri Lanka so far this year. Foreign news: France prison van attack, manhunt for escaped prisoner enters second day. And with that we end this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, and it's over to Dilshan Dimel on the other side to keep you company this Wednesday afternoon. Over to you, Dilshan.